I call bullshit. I do.
How dare you?
I call bullshit on behalf of a bunch of people who know better than to think that there can be anything but just spending all your time finding the best lawyer you can find.
So you're calling bullshit on behalf of the naysayers who hear these initial foundational videos we're making and go, that's not true, that's wrong, because reason X.
Right?
Okay. So I've heard many a time people say you're wrong because reason X, and so we'll address a few of those.
And let's not. I mean,
Wow.
let's give them their due. I mean, they're very, very good objections.
Yes,
generally.
and I want to steel man. I want to glorify and raise their objections to their highest logical level.
All right.
And then address that.
All
I'm
right,
not
let's
looking to
see what
minimize
we can do
anybody.
with some of them. What's a common one?
You sound just like a sovereign citizen.
I sometimes do. It's very close. The difference between you don't have jurisdiction and the alternative, which is I don't see. I want you to explain why you have jurisdiction, is a very, very close sentence.
Well, I want you to explain why you don't have jurisdiction, and has the prosecution provided any?
Again, I want it formal, and in a formal sense. Now, in a formal sense, it's the prosecutor's job to do this pre-arraignment to the court with facts, like evidentiary, hard facts, not with speculation, not with legal theory
Or opinions.
He's supposed to outline his case, state his case, and state everything that he needs to be true in order for you to be guilty.
Or even threatened with an arrest warrant if you don't show up.
Right. He's supposed to state it all. That's not steel manning. He is supposed to. But the argument, again, that you made.
Well, what I'm saying, to steel man the claim that you sound like a sovereign citizen is basically sovereign citizens aren't effective because they make claims and assertions. Mm-hmm. That opens the door to a determination process, something at trial. Sovereign citizens are quite often angry and serious and trying to be exception to the rule. This would be kind of steel manning the claim that, oh, you're a sovereign citizen. You're put in a different way, but really what you are is a sovereign citizen.
And, well, here's the thing. I mean, the sovereign citizens have constructed a way to interpret laws and statutes and all these things in a way, oddly enough, that makes some sense. There is a structure, there's an internal consistency to it, but it's not the way that the establishment interprets it. It's different than the prevailing legal opinion.
I would add to that a key difference between a sovereign citizen and what we're doing, there are many, but a key one is a sovereign citizen, instead of clarifying what the prosecution or judge is doing, they have chosen a strategy that invents a competing narrative to the narrative that the state is giving.
Right.
And they are selling that alternate narrative.
And insisting on it.
And
expecting other people that aren't in their group to buy on.
And we are not selling a competing narrative. That would be assuming the burden of proof, which is...
I mean, I have a narrative that there's no justice to be had.
Well, but not in court.
But not so much.
not in court. So our strategy is to, again, just clarify. Also, the second part of this, what really surprises me when I hear this is, I mean, where are you going to look up the definition of sovereign, number one? Normally that goes with a nation, right? To be sovereign, if you look at different sources, has different elements to that definition, of which we are not attached to. We are not attaching ourselves to this idea that,
But a sovereign thinks that he's not subject. He's not a subject to these laws. I mean,
and we're going, I could be. Am I subject to these laws?
Okay,
it's a strategic MGTOW path from the sovereign citizen main highway.
So, but that sounds like you're being pretty intentionally dumb, doesn't it? It sounds. I mean,
that's part of Socrates. It's manipulating the manipulators. We're dealing with drawing public and political pressure from obedient, conforming, tax-paying citizens. I don't need to be right. I need to have them behind me.
All right.
And then, go ahead. But citizen is another word we would not be down with. So both words are...
Yeah, well, I have a little bit of trouble with that one because I don't know how to put those together. But again, a sovereign citizen, I was just saying he doesn't consider himself much of a citizen. But I guess what he's thinking is he's a type of citizen that is outside of these rulemaking laws.
Sure. Now, again, what's that typical legally approved definition of citizen? Something of being a member of a body politic who exchanges... I'm sorry, you know what?
Yeah, owing a duty of allegiance in exchange for a duty of protection.
Right. Allegiance being taxes and obedience, for protection being the cops and the military. But of course, we see no protection. We see no realistic protection going on. The cops
there's two
are always
definitions.
late.
There's one definition where it's like, we protect, but in a vague and general and broadly applied, not individually applied sense, in a collective sense.
Right. We dare to be individualists.
We owe them allegiance in an individual sense, and they owe protection in a collective sense.
And that is a bad deal. That makes
try
no sense.
finding insurance that'll do that.
Right. They won't. Call 911. You're gonna have to survive that before the cops show up. You just are.
Yeah.
So there, and further, the Supreme Court has said the cops have no duty of obligation to protect anyone. They've admitted it.
It's extremely rare for there to be any duty of protection, and it's very, very limited.
If there's no protection, there's no allegiance, there's no relationship here, there's no contractual here, there is no state, there is no citizen in actual reality.
Well, I mean, it's a label.
It's a label. It's a concept.
It's a label applied. There is no such thing as, man or woman is a label.
Right.
You can't say, point at, the concept of man. You have to point at an instance of somebody who's rightly labeled as such.
Oh, there are definitions of that with chromosomes, gonads.
Right. But there's no ethereal example.
Right.
All right. Well,
watch my frog flip out while I itch my nose. All right, go ahead.
All right,
we got to get through these quick.
All right. Well, that's one.
Let's do sovereign citizen. Okay, next one. You have to obey the laws.
You have to. Well, what is it? What do you mean by the laws?
Yeah, that's the point of this one. So again, to steelman this, practical pragmatism. We can't have anarchy and a bunch of people running around. You have a duty to obey the laws.
We need orderliness. Otherwise, people
will be chaos.
Are really, really bad off.
Right, and you have to be a productive member of society. You have to obey the laws.
Okay.
So it's pragmatism.
And I believe that we have to obey, ethics.
Ethical.
And kind of everybody believes that. They just might go back and forth between the law and ethics.
Right.
But nobody believes that an unethical law should be obeyed. If they passed a law today that you need to go stab your mother in the chest, no one would say, well, damn it, I need to go do that.
Yeah.
It's a law.
Right.
So we have limits, and we say, we might give statutes and so forth like a benefit of the doubt. And that's the question, really, I guess, is what benefit of the doubt do statutes get, or should they all be looked at against ethics?
Right. And then, of course, the law. So, when I look at their claim, hey, you have to obey the law. Okay, according to your definition from your books, what is the law? So that I understand you, so that I will agree with you, so that I will obey. I'm trying to obey.
Okay.
What is the law? And they don't come out and say, it's this written down, U.S. Law 1, U.S. Law 2, U.S. Law 3.
They don't?
No. They interpret it and go statutes and codes. But they're not holding you to what they call a law. If you break the speed limit, they're holding you to a statute or the criminal code. Whatever ruling it is.
See, they're saying that all statutes and codes are law.
Verbally, they are.
Like in casual conversation, they do, but when you get formal, they don't.
When you go according to your rule books, does it say anywhere? Hey, laws are considered statutes and codes. The word law comes from science originally,
Okay.
the certainty of scientific laws, the law of gravity, the law of thermodynamics. That screams credibility,
So-
predictable inevitability. We want that credibility as a corrupt court system so that people in their heads will go, oh, it's a law.
So did we address? You have to obey the law. Did we address what they mean?
They mean. They'll hide behind the vague word law, but they mean you have to obey the statutes and codes.
Well, and it's not just that. They mean the judges, right?
Who that's where the rubber meets the road on the statutes
Right.
and codes, absolutely.
Right.
So you have to obey the judges is a more specific way of saying what they're implying.
Okay.
And I'm still mad.
And the judges kind of maybe in cahoots with, different politicians and stuff like that.
Oh,
It's a vague system, but
two branches of the three.
yeah, it's a vague system,
They're in
but
bed.
you have to obey them. They're their favorite rulers.
Oh yeah.
Now, why would that be? But that's true. If you don't, there's punishment. If you don't want to be whipped on the nose, don't pee on the carpet.
So anywhere you go in any city, they're gonna have speed limits. Very few people obey these speed limits.
Okay.
They all break the law, quote unquote.
But everybody expects to be out some money for doing that.
But the question is, do you have to? I'm answering. Obviously, people don't have to because they break it every single day.
Okay. So let's amend it to.
Half is what I'm.
Let's amend it to: if you break the law, you have to take your punishment.
If you get caught and it comes.
Yeah.
Well, you have a choice between punishments. You can either take a plea deal. You can.
Okay.
Plead.
So what
you
are
can
you?
go
so
to trial.
So what are we?
You can run away from the country.
So what are we objecting to here? So why don't we just take our lumps and move on with
what
life?
what we're objecting to is the unchallenged conformity and governmental obedience to the will of bar members named judges. That is
All
not
right.
men going their own way. That is
All
men
right.
going a judge's way.
So you have to obey the law is the equivalent of be a man and
Yep.
listen to your woman.
I've grandpappy did it. My daddy did it.
Hey.
My kids are going to do it. If what you're saying is true, I've been a fool my whole life. That can't be true. Therefore, obey the law.
So be a man and pay for dinner.
You're talking to a MGTOW community. So
Well, okay, maybe that's a good analogy.
They're not paying for dinner.
Well, no, that's what we're told though. You have to pay for dinner.
Oh yeah. I see what you're saying.
So you have to pay
Open
for
a
dinner.
door, get married.
That is a to many people that's a consequence of dating or whatever it be. That's just something you do. You have to hold the door open. You have to this.
You should be monogamous for 50 years. You should raise kids. You should risk divorce rape.
So and you should not question the punishment of judges and lawyers.
They say all that unless it comes to their divorce or their loss of child custody. Oh, it's
Okay.
great. They're all on board when it applies to everyone else. But when they're facing the loss of their kids, all of a sudden now challenging judges is currently on the table if it's an option.
All right.
I'm open to learning. Hypocrites.
So they just want to feel better about the world going on the way they
Right.
expect it to.
It's the same
just
thing.
Just like with them wanting. Oh, hold on. Just like with them wanting men to behave the way they expect it and to continue and just stop complaining.
Yeah.
They're upset when men don't.
Yeah. And
People are also upset when we dare to ask a judge,
yes.
tell me why this applies.
Right.
Is there a logical reason, or is it just the fact that
Right.
that you have guns?
So unless you're going to obey the law, the will of judges, when a judge orders, you will pay this much alimony forever. If it's in California, it's for life. You will pay this much child support, no matter how much or little you get to see your kids. Unless you're willing to apply that, even when that happens to you, you have no footing to stand on to be anything credible or consistent with the truth. Don't be a hypocrite. Don't accuse feminists of being hypocrites. Don't condemn gynocentrism, and then when it comes slamming on you, now you're going to get back on the plantation. And oopsie. That's all I'm saying. That's my point.
All right. I think that one's been
It has.
steel man about as much as it can be steel man. But
Do you want to? We're only. I mean, we came up with 2 of them.
Go for it.
5 minutes. Do you want to make a separate video or keep going?
One more.
One more. He's rolling. All right. Let's see. We kind of already did that. You think you're an exception to the rules. You have to pay the taxes they want. You can't pay your unfair share. We all pay our share of taxes.
You have to pay. What is it? Well, okay, and that's true. If you don't want to be attacked, you have to pay. If you don't want to be stabbed, you have to give the mugger your wallet.
Right.
That's the same amount of true. It's true. I have to agree.
Then let's steel man it.
If you don't want a bunch of violence thrown your way, give up your money.
They'll take your house. They'll throw you in jail. Ask Wesley Snipes.
And that's true. And if you don't want a bunch of, that same with mugging.
Right.
So the snuck in thing is that it's right because it's inevitable. Now, is it inevitable? It's mostly inevitable.
Well, mostly inevitable. But I want to steel man their position and hear your responses to that too.
All right.
The reason why you need to pay taxes is because we enjoy a level of security and a quality of life that is potentially the highest humanity has ever reached.
Hell, man, if there were a company out there selling the package that the U.S. government takes credit for,
come live on our island,
that the government takes credit for. Now, I don't buy that it's the bureaucrats creating this greatness that North America tends to be.
Oh, the average.
They take credit for it though, and if a company were saying to me, "Hey, listen, we have this U.S. package, or you can take you can take the Venezuelan package," I will give up more than the government wants in taxes for that package. I would.
For the U.S. package over
for the
Venezuelan
U.S. package. Yeah. Hey, not starving, eating dogs. I'll take the U.S. package with the paved roads all over the place and all this. Now that's a lie.
But it's a choice from being under duress.
Well, that's a lie though.
A lack of options.
You see, it's the U.S. It's the tax collector pretending that he's the one delivering this package. He's not the one that did this.
Of course, they borrow credibility and
they
denial,
drew they put some lines around a map and said, "Hey, we have these great people in this area, this great economy. We're responsible for it, and it's ours, and we're taxing for it.
And we've bribed men with guns called cops and FBI, and they're going to make you do what we want. You give a." Just in the paper today, it was, good news. Local residents, property taxes have raised about 10% over the last year. Unfortunately, that means higher property tax probably.
Yeah, so property values went up.
Right, but when they go down, are they going to get a refund? No. Just a quick point, because it just happened in the news. But to further steel man it, right?
All right.
You have to pay taxes because, we enjoy this lifestyle, right? You benefit from it. And in so many different ways, okay? If you really scrape down bottom barrel and you get in a car wreck, you're still going to be going to a hospital and get surgery. All the kids, even if you don't have kids, all the kids that grow up around you get a base level of education. That raises everybody, a rising tide raises all ships.
Right.
There's all these social programs that not only are available to you, but more importantly, are available to lower percentiles of society who must receive or take because they cannot make, and that prevents civil strife, the barbarians storming the gates. We are what prevents anarchy, and it's the payment of taxes that allows that. Now, if you don't want to do it, you're just trying to be an exception to the rule. You're not being logical. You're not being ethical. You're trying to be special. That's why we pay taxes.
All right. So the question becomes, is that the only choice there is? In that the education of the people around you. We know that, the educational system's stuck in a model that's hundreds of years old.
Let's say he says granted.
Okay,
granted.
But he can grant me all. I can go through the list of examples down the road, from roads to the restrictions we have on the type of cars that exist, and the fact that we're stuck with cars to begin with because of, and it's like, okay, are they a plus or a minus? And we don't know where we'd be without them. And I think most people would say, we'd be worse off.
They'll claim that.
They'll claim that. But that needs evidence.
Humanity has never enjoyed the level of peace, technological advance, medical advances, and longevity, and health from disease and sickness and strife, and war has been. Nobody's coming in and banging down our doors and destroying our people and enslaving them.
But
no society has enjoyed the level of success we have. Therefore,
but we do know that the more you turn down that authoritarian bend, the better off the people are. Mm-hmm. Now, there's a rule in economics. You can look at economics from one of two perspectives. You can look at it from the perspective of the government, or you can look at it from the perspective of the normal people, right? And they're Oh, sorry. My puppeteering. Yeah, my puppeteering went off. I turned too far. So there's a level. There's two perspectives, and usually they're in contrast. If you look at the perspective of the people, they've generally been better the less authoritarian the government is. You know, it requires a clamping down, and you get a bunch of social justice folk who get upset. Power goes down, and politicians want power, and political people want power, and they're very motivated to get it.
And when you're the richest country with the longest history without a successful insurrection.
Yeah, they don't want to turn that down.
Yeah.
So, you know, would I pay the amount of taxes for the things? Yeah. If I were buying it on a market, I would.
If you were desperate. If you had no other choice.
If the market were out there, and and this package was available, you know, would I pay for roads? Yeah, I'd pay that amount. Would I pay for the things that they do? Mm-hmm. I'd probably pay for a good chunk of them, and I probably wouldn't pay for a good chunk of them too. There's a lot of things the government's doing that I find counterproductive and destructive. I wouldn't pay for them to spread Marxism in colleges. I wouldn't pay
police the world.
I wouldn't pay for a bunch of court systems designed to ruin men. I wouldn't pay for
right. And that's a big one. I like the one that goes, okay, so you're saying I must pay X amount of taxes, which they say you got to pay this amount. Otherwise, if it's $1 short, okay, cool. Why is it then that in every instance, if a person finds a loophole, like if you get a tax lawyer or a good accountant, he's like, yo, check out these loopholes and you can move this stuff offshore, you can have an account over here. Every taxpayer in the country pays the minimum amount of taxes that they can and not be bothered with the coercive threats of violence. If you can pay $10 less, you will pay $10 less. Nobody's out there going, oh, I could get a $2,000 tax check, but you know what? The government really needs that, so I'm just going to let them keep it. That's ridiculous. So what they're doing is they're borrowing on some kind of ethical foundation of everyone owes because I don't want my ego to get hurt because I've been paying all these years.
Right.
But if they were able to get a break, even if they were able to get a break and a hypothetical that doesn't exist, guarantee that they would not be caught, they would take it.
So if you could have some kind of a lottery, and if you win the lottery, you're tax free for the rest of your life. Find me the person who wouldn't play that.
Right, because there is no, but the roads, my schools.
Then suddenly they'd be like, oh, hey, I found a way out.
Right.
They'd found a way out.
Now, of course, lastly on this, if the person steel manning this position is, with all due respect, dependent on the government to survive, disabled in some way, shape, or form, right? Or they just have dependents that they just wouldn't be able to support and stay housed without daddy government.
Or they've buried themselves in this system so much that they need it.
Those type of people, and some exist in the MGTOW community, it's not even worth having the discussion with. Because no amount of logic and ethics, even if it came from a hypothetical God, would change their mind because they, like a lot of us, and I'll admit this, we tend, that's too weak a word, we basically go with the survival strategy that we perceive suits us best.
Okay.
To increase our chances of success, quote unquote, the best.
Okay.
I do it, you do it, everyone does it.
All right. You said you had one more, or?
No, let's just do 3, man. Let's end this right now and move on to another video.
All right.
All right, cool. This is good.